Welcome to another episode of Clean Water Champions, a virtual clean water celebration. I'm your host, Brian Fox Ellis, and today we are taking a trip back in time. Have you ever been to one of those old-fashioned medicine shows? Our guest is Dr. Icy Coldwater, and he will help us to understand what is that fabulous chemical compound. What is dihydrogen oxide?
Good morning, folks. I am Dr. Icy Coldwater, and I am here to tell you about my mystical hydration formula. This formula is rare in the universe. This formula comes from the unique blue planet, and it is capable of cooling large land mammals, leveling large landscapes, acts as a special property when used in chemistry. It is a unique and absolutely essential property, and it's something that you absolutely have to have. You can't do without my mystical hydration formula. This is dihydrogen monoxide. Yes, I said dihydrogen monoxide. And this dihydrogen monoxide is, well, water. You do want water, yes? And you want clean water, yes? Let me share with you some of the qualities of this property, of this compound. And we have here, first of all, something to demonstrate as to why it is unique and so absolutely rare here in this world. If you can imagine, we're in a large hot air balloon going way up high in the sky and looking back down at our planet, you would see predominantly the color blue. What other colors might you see? You would see the colors green, you would see the colors brown, and you would also see the color white. So what are those things and what do they represent? Well, indeed, as we're up in that hot air balloon looking back down at everything, we would see that the blue would be, oceans. And then the green would be, well, the trees, all the vegetation that surrounds us. And the brown, that would be the deserts, that would be the mountains. And then the white, well, that could be the clouds, but it could also be the ice at the top and the bottom of the planet. So with all this water, how much can we actually use? Well, believe it or not, folks, if I were to take all the water in the world and condense it down into my little kit that I'm going to show you here, if I had all this water representing all the water in the world, again, the color blue, the majority of it would be in salt water. Can we use salt water? Well, we can use it for recreation, navigation, sanitation, and again, in some cooking. But other than that, we don't really have much of a use for salt water. So most of the water on the planet we can't use. That leaves this amount. Now this looks fairly clear, which is a good thing, but this is actually representing all of the fresh water. So all the rest of the water here in my hands is the fresh water. This fresh water is locked in ice. The ice at the polar caps and glaciers all around the world, and it's not really available to us. So once again, the next largest amount of water we really can't use. Which leads me to the green. Now, do you remember what I said the green was? This green represents all the water that is caught in processes, in you, in me, in the trees, in the squirrels, and everything that's living. So can we use this water at the same time it's being used by other things? No. So the next largest amount of water cannot be used. It is not available. Which leaves me this. And this is just a smidgen of the amount of water that we have available. And it is veritably only a drop in the bucket of all the water that we have in our beautiful blue planet. Now, if I were to break that down again, I would have this, which is my meter stick, So this is a meter stick. Everything is measured out according to a meter, and say this is like, 100 centimeters, right? So measuring out the centimeters, I have 97% of all the water in the world is in the oceans. It's salt water. And we have 2.4 in ice, locked in ice and frozen properties, and 0.6, which is in processes, which means that out of all this water, only the red end of the stick is all the fresh water you will ever see or use in your lifetime. So it's important that we take care of that water. Again, so what do we need to do in order to protect that water? Well, we have to protect it from the contaminants that seem to find their way into our watersheds. And we have things like different chemicals, oil, fertilizers, gasoline. Oh, and this is a particularly nasty one. This is sludge. What I mean by sludge is, well, after you take in your water, you flush it down, and then it goes into different places, into sewer lines. Sometimes those sewer lines are combined with storm sewers, and you get sludge. Sometimes that gets out into the river too. Other forms of litter, including the litter from our four-legged friends that we sometimes run into out on the lawns. Make sure you pick up the dog poo, right? So, salt. Well, what do we do in the winter? We tend to salt the roads. So we're turning this fresh water into salt water. But the biggest contaminant of all in our rivers currently is this right here. It's dirt. Now, don't make a mistake. It's not soil. Soil is what we use for growing things. This is what comes off, what runs off from the land that we're not paying attention to. All these things, they tend to make it their way into the river, even if we're trying not to allow them into the river. But the sediment is the biggest contaminant in all the rivers here currently. So don't treat your soil like dirt. Contain it. One of the more interesting things about water are the different properties of water, and that actually, when being used in science, if you add water to a base, it acts like an acid. When you use water with an acid, it acts as a base. But this is one of the more interesting qualities as well. Well, let me get this arranged. And now, I am going to attempt to pour the water from this vessel into the other vessel, and hopefully gravity won't dominate and pull that water off the string. And you see how it's making its way through there. What process is allowing me to pour the water from this vessel into this container into that one without falling to the ground? Well, it's using the fact that the string was already wet, so it's finding like molecules and transferring from one to the other. So this is a process we call what? Cohesion. So with that, I'd like to remind you about picking up after your pets, about picking up trash, making sure they find their way into the receptacles, about not using too much fertilizer, not treating your soil like dirt, and leave you with one of the more other interesting qualities using that cohesion. I have this penny right here. I'm going to start adding water onto there with drops, and I want you to guess how many drops I'm able to put on here without overflowing. And I'm up to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 drops on the head of that penny. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, there we go. At 27 drops, it ran off. What allowed it to bubble up like that? Surface tension. Another interesting property of our dihydrogen monoxide or common water. Thank you very much. I am Dr. I.C. Coldwater.
So as Dr. Icy Coldwater has just explained, we might live on a blue planet, a watery world, but a very tiny percentage of that water is available. A few drops in a bucket. How do we take better care of that water? Now that we understand some of the chemical properties of water, how do we help to clean and purify water? And the water that flows through us and through our world, the water we use, how can you be a better steward? How could you be a clean water champion?